Good evening, I'm Glenn, and I'm the proprietor of Cami Singing Bowls, Canada's biggest source of handmade Himalayan singing bowls, or at least I'm pretty sure that I am. With over 300 bowls, I'd be surprised if somebody else has this much stock. I'm just thought that I would demonstrate some of the bowls that I have on hand, talk about them a little bit. I don't really have a proper website with a listing of bowls and all that sort of funky stuff, but I make up for it by not charging as much for my bowls as those websites which do. In any case, I'm going to talk about some of these bowls that are on my table here. This is a cup-sized singing bowl. It's called an old looks bowl because if you're not really familiar with brassware, it looks kind of old, and even I see now what could be fake ritual gash marks, which I'll talk about later. In any case, this is a contemporary bowl, and I can sell these for quite cheaply, between $15 and $30, depending on the weight. These contemporary singing bowls, generally speaking, are very nice. They're tomorrow's treasured antiques, I sometimes like to say. They generally have a very bright sound, very energetic, lots of vibrato or wah-wah, I guess you could call it. I have these in both the small size that you see here and larger sizes, like this one here, which I wasn't actually planning to demonstrate for you, but this is a larger size bowl. With a correspondingly deeper tone. This is also a contemporary bowl, and the price on it would probably be somewhere between... no, I actually have a price on. This is $105, which I think is actually just a steal, because if you were to go to some Manitoba artisan and ask for a handmade brass bowl of this size, I don't think you could get it for $105, and if you did, it probably wouldn't be musical. Because after all, as my coworkers like to joke with me, I can always put fruit in these, use it as a salad bowl. And well, yes, you can. And actually, in their countries of origin, the older singing bowls, at least, were used for domestic purposes. These modern ones are made, to be sold in the West and used as, as musical instruments, therapeutic tools, things like that. The older ones, they were usually, as I said, used for domestic purposes, even if it was, say, monks in a monastery using it to cook their meals. So, in any case, what else do I have here? This is a thadobati. This is kind of the staple of singing bowls. This is actually not quite a typical thadobati in that it's got kind of curved sides. Thado means straight, and bata, I guess, means body. And so thadobati means basically straight body. Here's perhaps a better example of that sort of thing. You can see the sides on this one are a little bit more straight. This is a very high quality, at least in my assessment, thadobati. Various criteria which I'll go into another time. But to make a long story short, it seems kind of shallow, but generally speaking, the singing bowls which have got very smooth sides, very rounded edges, very flat bottoms, tend to be the ones which sound the nicest. This, incidentally, is a $150 bowl, because, as I said, it's a very high quality bowl. Amongst the things which I consider make a bowl high quality are how long it goes, how complex the sound is, how many tones there are, what sort of balance there is, how pleasant it sounds, all sorts of stuff like that. Now, I've been droning is one term for this. I also call it singing a bowl. most of these bowls you can get at least 2 tones on. I've only just been getting 1, but the second tone, you can... is usually a lot louder than the primary tone. And sometimes you can get a third tone, and those are really quite piercing in a good sort of, hurts so good sort of way. In any case, another fine bowl. This here is a beautiful little jambati. Jambati means, jam I guess means tribe, because usually it takes more than one person to make one of these bowls. Now this is actually a tiny little jambati. More typical in size is this modern one here. This is more the size that you see a jambati is, 12 inches, 9 inches to 10 inches. But this has got, well, what's characteristic of a jambati is they usually have these engravings at the edge here. They usually have a fairly straight side and then a fairly flat bottom. What distinguishes this from a thadobati? Mostly the decoration, I'd have to say, in this particular case. It's just such a beautiful little bowl. It's the smallest jambati I have, and I really probably should be selling it at a higher price than what I'm asking, because it's probably quite rare to find a bowl of this size, of this particular model. What am I charging for it? Just a mere $155. It's in lovely shape. I should say, I haven't mentioned, but a lot of these bowls are sold to me as antiques, between 100 and 390, about 400, don't ask me, years old, according to the expert in Kathmandu. I should also mention that, yes, I buy the vast majority of my bowls from 2 major sources in Kathmandu. And in any case, yes, this is supposedly one of these antique bowls, at least 100 years old, maybe older. The sorts of things that you look for to tell you that a bowl is old are things like the bottom is flattened out because it's been sitting for so many years. This is another good example. But the sides are very worn and smooth. This one here is sort of not all that worn. You can see that this decoration is still quite apparent. But the hammer marks have been worn away to a fair amount. It's always possible that this decoration could have been reapplied. Any case, I'm not an expert on this sort of thing, but there are things that I found online that you can learn about what to look for in a piece of old brassware. I don't know how much time I've used up here. This video thingy of mine only takes videos about 15 minutes, so this is sometimes you hear them called a naga bowl, also a stand bowl, obviously. Oops, that was a label, it just fell out. It doesn't matter. These are very much liked by Reiki practitioners and other sonic healers because you can hold them like this, and you can set them going like this, or ring them, however you like, and then you can pass it over somebody's body and focus the sound. I found that this style of bowl, which is apparently fairly rare, and I'm getting a whole whack load of them, or I'm going to be hopefully soon, this sort of bowl, in my experience, generally has superior sound. The workmanship is pretty fine. You can barely see the hammer marks on the outside. You can see them better on the inside. And yeah, what more can I say about them? They're not quite sure what they are used for. Rather, we haven't found out yet, because I'm sure that the Nepalese, somebody must know what these were used for. But what I've heard is that they put herbs in them, and they maybe charge them up by ringing it around. I just don't know. I suppose I should pretend that I do, but I don't. In any case, what else do I have here in the tickle trunk, so to speak? This is an older cup-sized bowl, or a cup-sized thadobati is actually what they're sold to me like. It occurred to me I forgot to tell you what the price on this bowl would be. This bowl would be about $140. Now, I've been listing off these prices, of course, but I tell people when they actually come here and buy stuff that I put a price on it, then I like to give a discount, so especially if you buy a lot. So this little cup-shaped bowl is, as I said, an older bowl, and it would cost about $50. One of the things that I like to do with these bowls, one of the reasons that I get so many bowls, because for somebody who's only doing this part-time, I have an absolutely enormous amount of stock. Even for somebody who is doing this full-time, I have an enormous amount of stock. I like to make sets and scales out of them. So this particular one that I just played for you a moment ago is part of a little set that I have here on the table. I just think that that sounds nice together. It's not any particular scale or anything like that, but all over my house and all over my shop as well, to a lesser extent, I have all these collections of bowls. Sometimes they're like scales, sometimes they're more like chords, and my house is very musical. In any case, I should wrap this up and say, well, now that I've shown you a few of the wonderful bowls that I have here for sale, you should come down. If you want a bowl of this sort, that is a handmade Himalayan singing bowl, this is the place to come. What can I say? Hope to see you soon.